and welcome back to our countdown of the top 50 players in the CPL for 2019. Let's dive straight in to our top 30.
If I was playing a video game and creating a player, I would max out the height, give him all the foot skill I could possibly give him, and then play with that as a striker. And I think that's exactly what you get with Easton Ongaro.
Easton Ongaro claims number 30 in our countdown. Continuing the Ongaro family legacy in Edmonton soccer, the 6'6" striker finished with 10 goals and the most goals per minute in the CPL.
Never has the phrase "good feet for a big man" been more apt than with Easton Ongaro. He's got really surprising technical ability given his huge stature. Obviously in the air, he's absolutely dominant. You put a ball into the box and he's going to win it.
Easton Ongaro might have more questions to answer in 2020 than he did in 2019, just given he has to repeat what he did in 2019. A player who always found himself in the right positions, a player with a nose for goal. And the one big compliment I can give to Easton Ongaro is that whenever the ball fell to his feet inside 12 meters, he always finished.
It was a stellar season with Pacific for twice-capped Canadian international Ben Fisk. Tied for the most assists in the nation with 5, he also shouldered much of the captaincy duties for the Islanders. The versatile winger added 6 goals for PFC in 2019.
Ben Fisk might be the most underrated player in the CPL, in my opinion. There was only 3 guys in the league who put up 5 goals and 5 assists. He was one of them, along with PETRASSO and Borges.
Ben Fisk is a model professional, not just for Pacific FC, but across this country. He is the kind of player that you want representing your league. He's quiet, confident, but very polite. And on the field, he's willing to express himself in many different ways.
Ben Fisk, a player who should have played much more at Pacific FC. I'm not really sure why Michael Silberbauer decided to take him out of the lineup from time to time. A smart player, a mature player, a player that when he gets on the ball is very decisive, whether it be taking defenders one-on-one or just needing that little bit of space to find a shot on goal.
Golden Glove nominee Connor James dives into spot number 28. A breakout star for the Eddies, James secured 7 clean sheets in 22 games for his hometown club, while posting the second most saves in the CPL with 67.
We had a few of these local kid stories, but Connor James learned to play the game in Edmonton, stayed there with the youth programs and then with university as well. So it's good to see him have success with FC Edmonton.
Connor James, again, a lot to prove in 2019. His first professional contract coming out of the U Sports system. A lot of pundits, including myself, coming into the season, would have chosen a lot of other goalkeepers ahead of Connor James. But one thing you noticed about Connor James was how not only did he have a knack for the timely save, but also was pretty mistake-free in goal. And that's what I want in a goalkeeper, somebody who's mistake-free. He's not going to lose you games, but he's going to win you a lot of points.
No one logged more minutes this year than York 9 defender LUCA GASPAROTTO. The former Glasgow Ranger was nearly infallible on the back line, dominating several defensive categories such as blocks, clearances, duels won, and interceptions.
The Iron Man, the player who played every game for York 9 in 2019. I thought he was steady, I thought he was poised.
The Desperado. Solid center back for York 9. Part of the reason why they had such a good group in the pack.
One of a handful of players to get a call from John Herdman this year, Edmonton's Amir Didic comes in at number 26. Rock solid on the back line, Didic smothered opposing attackers and often found himself in the box on attacking set pieces with his 6'4" frame.
Amir Didic didn't just get a Canadian men's national team call-up for his performances, but for the attitude that he brings to training every single day.
The potential is there for Amir Didic to be the best central defender in this league. Now, whether he ever really hit those heights in 2019 is up for debate. The guy is huge, he wins every header, he's good with his feet, he can play out of the back. The complete centre-back is there. I just don't know, and maybe this was partly because of injury, was whether he really played to that level for a consistent season.
Good, strong player, which is exactly what you want from a center back. A Kurt Larson center back.
Halfway through the countdown, we have Forge's David Edgar. The well-traveled Canadian international landed in Hamilton to replace the recalled Emery Welshman in August. Edgar's invaluable experience and leadership was instrumental to the Hammers' title run.
David Edgar is awesome. How much do you love this guy?
Had you given David Edgar an entire season at Tim Hortons Field, he probably would have found himself in the top 10 of this list.
There was a lot of interest around the league in bringing in David Edgar back from England to Canada. You wonder how the CPL finals might have panned out if it wasn't Forge who got their hands on him. Just such a leader and experienced player in defence, and you can't overestimate how important those types of players are.
Louis Bellon-Goyette, the first player from Valor to crack the list, enters at number 24. After 3 seasons with the Montreal Impact, LBG provided Rob Gale with stability in the middle. With 1 goal and 3 assists, the Montrealer was often VFC's most reliable player.
This is a guy who basically put the entire Valor midfield on his back, especially after Joseph Golobar went down with injury.
A little bit more polished than other holding midfielders in the CPL, a player who goes and finds the game, takes on a lot of responsibility, and that's what I want in my defensive midfielders.
I think Louis Bellon-Goyette sometimes struggled to kind of maintain his consistency given the way that the defense around him at Valor was falling apart. It was difficult for him to kind of pull that whole unit together. I think on ability alone, one of the best central defensive midfielders in the league. He's got a great range of passing, he breaks up play, and he even showed a bit of attacking quality as well when he was given the opportunity to be more of a box-to-box player.
Nick Ledgerwood, a player who needs to work on his goal celebrations.
The captain of the regular season dominating Cavs, Nick Ledgerwood locks down the 23rd spot in the countdown. Bringing 50 caps worth of experience to Calgary, the Lethbridge native was a key piece of Cavalry's identity. Rarely making a mistake, Ledgerwood added 4 points in 2019.
Nick Ledgerwood is absolutely hilarious. I got to meet him at the finals, and he's funny. He's a guy you want to hang out with, grab a beer with. He's pretty good at soccer as well.
Nick Ledgerwood, just a relentless competitor. You sometimes have to hold him back. You know, he got himself injured just before the finals with a head injury that he didn't really need to suffer. He got himself sent off in the Canadian Championship, and sometimes he's just almost too competitive, but you love to have that in your team. A real leader, a real gritty player, a bulldog in midfield, and crucial for Cavalry in the season they had.
The engine of Halifax's offense was undoubtedly Akeem Garcia. Accounting for 1/3 of his club's goals, the Trinidadian quickly became a fan favorite thanks to his unrelenting work rate. With lots of turnover expected for HFX, Garcia is a cornerstone to their future.
Akeem Garcia was the bright spot of that HFX offense all year long. His ability to play multiple positions across that forward line was really valuable as HFX struggled with some injuries, but more than that, his work rate on the field was unparalleled.
Akeem Garcia, I think, brought something to the table that Halifax sorely lacked. First of all, that was obviously just goals. He scored 33% of their goals, which was the biggest share of any player on his team in the CPL last year.
He was the one real threat that could hurt opposing defenses, whether he was racing them behind to get on the end of something, or really just as a tenacity up front to stay with plays and try and make something from nothing. Akeem Garcia, the most dangerous player for HFX Wanderers in 2019.
The final Wanderer on the countdown comes in the form of Peter Schala at number 21. Despite leaving the club in August to return to Cape Breton University, the AUS Player of the Year would be a massive boost should he return in 2020.
He is a cult hero. Peter Schala is loved by the Halifax supporters.
This guy was an absolute revelation out of Cape Breton University, won all sorts of awards there, but you were still surprised by how he made the step up to the higher level. Massive physical presence, really not going to lose many 50-50 duels.
But he's my kind of center back, a guy who's going to battle, but also has the presence of mind, the calmness that when he gets on the ball to make good decisions. Peter Schala was loved in Halifax, and I think he's going to be for the foreseeable future.
The latest set of players sees the first appearance of a Valor FC member in Louis Bellon-Goyette. How many more will make the cut as we move into the top 20? Well, we'll just have to find out.
I think you pronounce it Ancelotti Janssen?
Alexander Ashniotti Janssen. Nailed it.
Alexander Ashniotti Janssen. Alexander Ashniotti Janssen. Alexander Ashniotti Janssen. It's good warm-up activity. Get the mouth and the vocal cords going.
At number 20 is Forge's Alexander Ashniotti Janssen. The Swede brought lots of top-flight experience to the Hammers. He conceded just 2 turnovers and 1,700 plus minutes played with a passing completion rate north of 80%.
Guys like Kyle Becker and Tristan Borges, they can't play that beautiful attacking football without a defensive midfielder like Alexander Ashniotti Janssen behind him doing all that ugly, dirty work.
Just the kind of guy you want to have in your team. He gives some balance, and I thought it said a lot about Forge, that as much as they were in some ways the most talented attacking team in the league, they also had the best defensive midfielder. They know the value of a guy like him, and he deserves his place high up on this list.
Known primarily for his cannon of a throw-in, Nico Pasquati enters at number 19 in the countdown. Tremendous with the ball at his feet with explosive acceleration, the Lethbridge native was relentless on both sides of the ball, playing with exceptional passion and a knack for offense.
I thought that during the Canadian Championship, Nico Pasquati really went toe-to-toe with Ali Adnan, the Vancouver Whitecaps left back, and really gave him a hard time, and ultimately was a big reason why they got through in that tournament.
Just sheer endeavor, incredible engine. Nothing really fancy about him, but he just goes through people like a freight train. Love to watch this guy play because it's just sheer effort, and you have to admire that.
I'm going to tell you why his throw-in was illegal. It's not because it came over his head awkwardly. It's because if you look, right when he releases his ball, the foot is actually up. So take a closer look at Nico Pasquati's feet the next time he has a throw-in.
Kurt is insistent they're illegal. I'm not so sure. I think there's a lot of CPL coaches who agree with him. I think it probably wound up other people around the CPL as much as Jose Escalante did over the course of the season, these throw-ins, but they look legal to me, and they're effective and fun to watch, so I'll make an allowance.
The top Islander on the list is TERRAN Campbell. A workhorse with a nose for goal, Campbell was the beat that Pacific marched to. Suiting up in every match for PFC, his 11 goals were tied for second most in the CPL, on the way to a nomination for Young Canadian of the Year.
TERRAN Campbell didn't just exceed expectations at Pacific FC, he created expectations at Pacific FC. This is a guy who wasn't supposed to start. This was Marcus Haber's show, but the fact that Campbell made that spot his own, that's a testament to a good player in my books.
TERRAN Campbell, probably the best player for Pacific FC, and came out of nowhere for them, exceeded expectations.
He's a threat with the ball at his feet, he's a threat aerially, and he's actually, I think, an underrated playmaker as well. He ended up, I think, 5th in the league for chances created from a run of play. So he's a player, like a few players on this list. I think you'll see them in the Olympic squad, and has a big future ahead of him.
Clubs around the world pursued Senegalese international Aliman Cissé, but it was Forge who landed him, and it certainly paid off. Cissé was a big piece of the Hammers midfield. Rock solid and dynamic on and off the ball, he contributed 2 goals and an assist in 2019.
Elimane Cissé, and what can you say about this guy? He got married over the phone in 2019. I didn't even know that was possible, but according to the Hamilton Spectator, he actually got married over the phone to a young lady in Senegal.
Really like watching this guy play. Another one like Jonsson, who maybe doesn't get the plaudits that some other Forge players do, but just does his job week in, week out, never lets you down.
He's also the person you want to have on your 3-on-3 team. When I think of the triplets for Forge FC, we know Kyle Becker, Tristan Borges. I think Cissé is the third part of that equation.
A perfect fit for Jeff Paulus' system, Jeannot Asua is the top-ranked Eddie. Strong, quick, and creative, the Cameroonian fullback was a heady winger that was effective all over the park. Calm and free-flowing, Asua is a key piece to Edmonton's brand of soccer.
Jeannot Asua at number 16 might be surprising for some. I guess to be the highest-ranked FC Edmonton player.
Jeannot Asua, I don't think he put a foot wrong all year, and that's why you almost struggle to remember back all the things he did well, because as a defender, I like guys who don't make mistakes and who really don't stand out. But Jeannot Asua, solid at the back.
What did Kurt say? Didn't put a foot wrong about Jeannot Asua? He didn't put a foot wrong, but he may have put a hand wrong because it was in Jose Escalante's face.
The 2018 League One Defender of the Year, Dominic Samuel, is another Sigma grad who effortlessly transitioned into the CPL. He breaks into the top 15 after a campaign that saw him eat up over 2,100 minutes while succeeding in a remarkable 88% of his tackles.
Dominic Samuel, for me, the hardest man in the CPL, also the man with the most amount of hairstyles in the CPL.
Championship teams, they're born off of the back of players like Dominic Samuel, guys who are versatile, can play multiple positions, but also are willing to put their body on the line for their team. That's what Samuel did for Forge this year, and it paid off in the end.
What number are we at? 15? I don't think a lot of people would have had him at 15 because he's not the kind of player who necessarily stands out, but for me, just one of the most important players to his team all season long, and it was a very good team, obviously, in Forge.
The one memory you have about Dominic Samuel comes in the first leg of the CPL finals when Jose Escalante is actually walking over to take a corner kick, and Dom Samuel is actually in the stands holding up a red card, because if you'll remember, Jose Escalante is the reason Dom Samuel missed the first leg of the final, so that was hilarious. If there's anybody I want to take my penalty kicks, it's Michael PETRASSO. The guy doesn't miss from the penalty spot.
The bulk of Valor's 8 wins can be attributed to offensive explosions from one of 2 players. The first is Michael PETRASSO. The young Canadian international brings waves of pace, footwork, and offensive fluidity to a VFC side that really needs it.
What would Valor be without a guy like Michael PETRASSO? I mean, he played as a number 9, he played as a winger, he's capable of playing a wing back, central midfield.
His ability to make these long runs into the box. He's got this cool crossover move, killer crossover, right to left, left to right. He just dances around defenders.
On a Valor team that really struggled at times this year, he was the one player when he was in the lineup, you kind of thought they had a chance to get a result just with how dynamic he is going forward. A smart player. He's played at another level. We'll see where he ends up in 2020.
Attack-minded Sergio CAMARGO slots in at number 13. Fearless but fear-inducing, the Colombian-born Canadian international is another success story of the Foothills PDL program. One of the Cavs' plethora of offensive options, he contributed 6 goals and 3 assists.
Sergio CAMARGO, so kind of been dubbed as my guy by certain other members of the panel.
Sergio CAMARGO, that's not him, that's Oliver Platt. You know him from OneSoccer match days, my colleague. But Sergio CAMARGO, for me, underrated in Canada in terms of a footballer. Overrated on this list because I thought he could have performed at a higher level. Oliver thought he was fantastic all year. I thought he could have been better. Yes, he was in the Golden Boot race at one point, but he faded. Injuries are a concern. Didn't show up down the stretch, and in the finals when they needed him to come through, it didn't happen. So, sorry, Ollie.
There was a spell mid-season where he was the best player in the league, and I include Tristan Borges in that. I thought he was on fire. I thought he was consistently making the difference for Cavalry.
Nearing the top 10, there are 2 final Y9 entries. First, the remarkable rise of Maury Donor. Debuting in late May, he made it impossible for his manager to take him out of the side. A speedy fullback, his work rate and toughness earned him respect throughout the CPL.
What I love about Maury Donor is his enthusiasm, whether it's scoring a beautiful volley or making a game-saving tackle.
Who is Maury Donor? I didn't know. I had no idea. Before the season, he actually came up to me in a bar in York region and introduced himself to me because he had followed my work with Toronto FC, and that's how I came to know Maury Donor. Of course, I came to know him a lot more because he was fantastic all year.
I think it's a merited spot here. He put in the kind of performances at right back that made him and Abzi the 2 best fullbacks in this league, and for that, I commend him.
Last up for the 9 Stripes is Ryan TELFER at number 11. On loan from TFC, Telfer's impressive campaign saw him rack up 10 goals and 2 assists across all competitions, including a call-up from Trinidad and Tobago and an assist in his recall from his parent club.
So Ryan TELFER scored the first ever CPL goal in the 3rd minute of the first match. So he was on pace for 8,984 goals this season. Didn't quite live up to it.
Ryan TELFER, wherever he is, whether it's with his national team, whether it's with Toronto FC, whether it's with York 9, I always think that he has more to give, and that's why he's not up even higher on this list. In terms of ability, probably could be the number 1 overall on this top 50 countdown.
Our list of players from 20-11 sees York 9's Ryan TELFER and Maury Donor just miss out on a place in the top 10. Join us after the break as we complete our countdown.